So here we are, as promised, looking at open source and sustainability, the role of university. We'll read the abstract and some conclusions. One important goal in sustainability is making technologies available to the maximum possible number of individuals, and especially to those living in less developed areas, so goal 9 of the Sustainable Development Goal. However, the diffusion of technical knowledge is hindered by a number of factors, among which the intellectual property rights system plays a primary role. There's a broader context to this, so the global negotiations on climate change under the UNFCCC have all sorts of noble goals, and there are rich countries and poor countries at the table trying to save our future, make it safer for the future generations, and so on. And yet the technologies needed for actually accomplishing the climate adaptation and mitigation, and in this context sustainability, do not flow easily from the innovators, which tend to be rich countries, to the people who need it most in the global south, the poor or developing countries. So that's where this vision is coming from. It's a very important issue, but how universities can play a role can in fact be a good addition to making things happen all the way to the UNFCCC level. Okay. While opinions about the real effects of IPR's intellectual property rights in stimulating and disseminating innovation differ, there is a growing number of authors arguing that a different approach may be more effective in promoting global development. The success of the open source model in the field of software has led analysts to speculate whether this paradigm can be extended to other fields. There are some good examples of the open source operating systems, like Android for all those phones that are non-iPhones, for example. Key to this model are both free access to knowledge and the right to use other people's results. After reviewing the main features of the OS model, we explore different areas where it can be profitably applied, such as hardware design and production. We then discuss how academical institutions can and should help diffusing the open source philosophy and practice. Wow, good goal. Widespread use of OS software, fostering of research projects aim to use and develop OS software and hardware, the use of open education tools, and a strong commitment to open access publishing are some of the discussed examples. Again, the idea of open source sounds nice in theory, but actual practical implementations in an end-to-end system where you're actually trying to make entire humanity sustainable and save the planet from climate change, global warming, and so on, there will be many gaps. Intellectual property right transfers to poor countries may be easier than overall open source systems, because once the rich countries have made their money, they may be able to open up IPRs to poor countries and so on. So there are many mechanisms that are possible. Nonetheless, the study concludes, the starting point of this paper is the widely shared view that for our world to be sustainable, a substantial effort from the developed countries to help poorer ones is required, no question, because rich countries created largely the climate change problem we are facing, and most of the impacts are on the poorer countries. B, this help is best given by transferring capabilities rather than goods, so that in the future disadvantaged communities will be able to provide those goods for themselves. So it's about giving a fish versus teaching a person to catch fish, and so on. The extraordinary advances of the last decade in the information and communication technology area have made the transfer of knowledge incredibly faster and more efficient than ever, but cybersecurity and cyber theft, industrial espionage are constant threats as well. But at the same time, the economical and legal barriers to free flow of information have become stronger and tend to maintain the current imbalance between the developed and undeveloped world. So this is sounding a bit too socialistic in a broader context of academic discussion, but it is something that needs to be debated. We have analyzed an alternative approach, the open source model, which is based on the idea that knowledge, unlike tangible goods, is a resource that one can give away without being deprived of it, and therefore should be very easy to distribute largely and equally. So if you are a student or a professional starting your startup, innovating something that you hope to patent and sell, and so on, you are motivated by money. You may have a heart in the right place in wanting to save humanity, but you still want to make money. So what is the full model? Is it going to be open source and innovate and give away everything, or there's a way to monetize and yet be kindler and gentler about the whole process? So that's a broader discussion that is beyond the scope of this chapter. So we'll come back and continue with some sustainability and corporate social responsibility ideas in the next podcast. Okay.